Okay, Shalom Akim, Kahalayim La Yahaba, Shimi Ashaba, Shinraka Kodash, and double honors to the great Muslim apostles. Thadi Ashaf for the strength in order to make this video. And Yartazah, this also helps to build up your knowledge and also to be as encouragement, considering that you're knowing the history of your own people. Because, as I named the video, Native American history, but this one is really focusing more so on Gad. Last time, of course, I was focusing on Reuben, pertaining to the three-part Seminole Indian War. Which really, as I brought the scripture, within Genesis 49, I believe, of the excellency of the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahshua. That's what Reuben, represents, or that trait that they hold. That's why they have a high regard in terms of their strength, man. So, anyways, now, going to bring out the example on, this one's really pertaining to Gad, because it even aligns with the precepts, which I'm gonna read. I'm gonna begin with that. I'm gonna begin with that just to get some clarity, and then I'm gonna read it again as I'm illustrating the point that links to that precept. So, and of course, sometimes I forget to say it, Salakia, but the point is, I'm Ra'azar Racha Halawiyah. That's the name of the channel, in case brothers are wondering what's this brother's name. It's Ratazar Racha Halawiyah. Ratazar meaning willing or will, W-I-L-L, or willing. And then Racha meaning spirit. And then Halawiyah meaning praise Yahweh. So that's what the name means in the ancient Hebrew. Ratazar Racha Halawiyah in the ancient Hebrew. Willing spirit, praise Yahweh in the English. Now getting to the point, Yaratazar, whenever I remember, I'll say it. So, let's see. Oh yeah, I said I was going to get Genesis 49. Actually, Genesis 49. Alright, so Genesis 49 and verse, hold on. So this is Genesis 49 and verse 18, or verse 19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And in the New Living Translation, it says here, Gad will be attacked by marauding bands, but he will attack them when they retreat. So, of course, he's going to have that pushback. And what I'm about to bring out in this book here, is going to pertain to that. It's going to really support that scripture right there, which is a trait of God, is a truth, which is really talking about fighting here, man. So let me start with I read the history is really pertaining to Sitting Bull predominantly, which is a name of a Gadite, of whom really was trying to protect his portion of land over there, whatever remnants that Esau left after all that fighting and colonizing of God's land. The thing is, after all of that, whatever little portion that was there, whilst the US government was already being established, this was around the 1800s, within that time period. Sitting Bull was defending that land. Now we're going to get into some history on him. And a similar guy called Crazy Horse, so I know these names are something else, but really it's because of their history, their origin. That's why they attained those names. And really those names are names of which pertain to strength. I'm gonna get into it. So actually, did I even read that? Yeah. I'll read the NLT again. So Genesis 49 and 19. Gad will be attacked by marauding bands, a whole group of people. Esau coming with his, armies to invade Gad. I'm going to read on it right now. But he will attack them when they retreat. So this was really like a back and forth, but let's get into it. So again, for reference, Native American History by Captivating History. You can order the book on Amazon, just in case you're wondering, if you want to do some reading yourself. And I'm on chapter 15 now. So I'm really bringing out the chapters that it's like, I can bring out some information that's key, and of course that links to the scriptures as well. So that's chapter 15, page 93. And the name of the chapter is Sitting Bull, Fighting Despite All Odds. So I'm going to just read the key paragraphs in case you see me skipping on, because I want to just get to the point. And Yaratazar, again, once more that you're edified. This helps to build up your knowledge on the history of the Native American Indians, which are Israelites as well. Hence why I'm going into this series on Native American history. You know, because the point is, you know, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, you guys are the true Israelites. And the reason why I'm bringing out this history is so that, you know, to support it with the scriptures, to establish that point that you guys are the real Israelites. Of course, as well as a speckled bird out there as well, which again is referring to Israelites of whom look like the heathen nations, but are actually Israelites, you know, by blood. So let's just get into it. So chapter 15 now, it says, Sitting Bull, Fighting Despite All Odds. The man who is called Sitting Bull by Americans has become a legendary figure in both Native American and American traditions. While Americans do know a little bit about him today, they tend to see him as a positive figure who wanted only to do what was right for his people, distancing themselves from the fact that it was the American government that killed the legendary leader of a Lakota tribe. Americans seldom, which seldom means rarely, by the way. I remember first time reading that, I didn't realize I had to search for the definition of seldom. Yeah, seldom means rare. So Americans seldom dig too deep into his history. However, they do view him as a good leader and feel that what happened was not right. So Native Americans have decidedly different perspective of the man, particularly his descendants. He is one of the few native peoples whose name is taught in American schools, although the history is somewhat distorted. This chapter looks at the man as he is remembered by the indigenous peoples, going much further back in the history than the clashes between the Native Americans in the West and the cruel and obviously illegal policies of the American government at the time. So now on to the actual history of the guy called Sitting Bull. You're going to realize why he got that name. So born near Yellowstone River, near today's town of Miles City, Montana, the infant was originally named Jumping Badger. You know, so that was the original name of Sitting Bull. You know, kind of like I'm trying to remember here. I got to review it again, but I believe Pocahontas also goes into meaning a stubborn child as well. You know, but again, I've already dealt with that in the other videos. Right now, we're dealing with Sitting Bull. But the point is, it's like they were named based on their behavior as well. You know, so that's something that's really a Jake trait as well, man. You know, doing things that pertain to your name. In the ancient Hebrew, of course, Israel in general, and also within the tribes as well. Despite them being in their delusion, you know, serving their idols, you know, certain echoes of Israelite custom is also there too, man. Alright, so he belonged to the Sioux and was a Hong Papa Sioux. And the Sioux is just Sioux. Sioux is just referring to like the alliances within Gad. For example, Sioux was the alliances between Dakota, aka Santee, in terms of their name, and Nakota, aka Yankton, that's the second one. And the third one, which is Lakota, which is the one that Sitting Bull was part of, was aka Teton. Let me just search that out quickly just to cross check, you know, because don't want to get it wrong. But yeah, the Sikhs were pretty much like alliances between the Gadites, within the Gadites, which the Gadites, by the way, are the Native American Indians. Seminole Indians are, again, I'll keep repeating this, just to establish that point within each video, whenever it comes up. The Seminole Indians really are Native American Indians, but a subsect within the Native American Indians. The Seminole Indians specifically are the ones that are Reubenites. But the Native American Indians, the rest of them over there, are the Gadites as well. But of course, you got also keep in mind the scattering of the tribes as well. So Reuben could have been mixing with Gad, and Gad would have been mixing with Reuben as well. So you got to keep that in mind. Now, so the Sikhs, I typed it up on Google. In the AI overview, it says the Sikhs refers to the Osseti Sakowin, or the Great Sikhs Nation, a confederation of indigenous peoples a confederation of indigenous peoples divided into three major groups based on language: the Dakota Eastern Sikhs, aka Santi, as it says here, the Nakota, the Western Dakota, which is aka Yankton, so that's Nakota, Yankton, and Lakota, it says a Teton, which is the Western Sikhs. So this is like again an alliance between these three sets of Gradites. So that's the key part right there. Hold on, let me see. I don't know if you're able to see that. Maybe I've got to zoom in or something. I can't zoom in as I'm recording, but I can get a quality. If you can read that, that's the main point. But you can see it here in the highlights, man. You got Dakota, Nakota, Lakota. So again, three alliances of Gadites. That's the point that I need to remember. So within that, Sitting Bull was actually part of the Lakota one. So we're going to get into that. So it says he belonged to the Sikhs and was a Hongpapa Sikhs. Little has been passed down in the Sikhs oral tradition about his childhood. As Gadites, when it comes to history, orally telling their children is the way it goes, the way it gets transferred, or making carvings on I guess certain wooden templates, for a lack of a better word. So it says consider slow. Let me get this. So passed down in the Sikhs oral tradition about his childhood, considered slow because of his calm nature. So Sitting Bull was seen as a slow guy, perceived to be a slow guy. So it says consider slow because of his calm nature. Now it doesn't mean that he was actually slow in the head though. He was just calm, and then that's what people perceived. He strove to prove he was more than what people thought of him. So at just 10 years old, Jumping Badger, again this was Sitting Bull's former name when he was young. So at 10 years old, Jumping Badger killed a buffalo. And at 14, he joined the Lakota tribe's warriors in what was a raid against a rival Crow to steal horses. So again, you see, it says Jumping Badger killed a buffalo, man. So you can see how he gets his new name, but I'm gonna get into it. And at 14, he joined the Lakota tribe's warriors in what was a raid against the rival Crow to steal horses. So you have a guy that's flipping killing killing buffaloes, man. Those are some heavy animals. So when you hear about the warrior tribes being Gad, Reuben, Manasseh as well. Gad and Reuben, of course, predominantly are the ones that I'm speaking on right now. They got some strength to them, man. The Most High put that strength to them. Again, excellency of power for Reuben. Gad, the troops shall overcome him, but he will overcome at the last. Which means he's going to resist against that troop that's going to invade him. And we're going to get into that as well. It says here, during this raid, Jumping Badger completed his counting coup against the Crow. This meant that he won recognition from his people through courage during a raid. To celebrate his becoming a man, a feast was thrown in Jumping Badger's honor and his fathers, and his father gave him a new name, Tantaka Ayotake, or Tantaka Iyotake, which means buffalo bull sits down. So again, hence the name Sitting Bull. So his name in the Native American tongue, Tantaka, Tantaka, Tatanka, Ayotake, or Tatanka Iyotake, which means buffalo bull sits down. Again, for shorter, Sitting Bull. So now you know the history of Tatanka Ayotake's name. So now considered a man and an official warrior. The young man was given a horse, a shield, and an eagle's feather to wear. So that's a Gadite trait as well. You notice how Gad always has the feathers as well. When they wear it like a crown. That's one of the traits of the Native Americans. But anyways, which again are Gadites. All right, so let's read on. So by the time he was 25 years old, Sitting Bull had become the leader of the renowned group called the Strong Heart Warrior Society. He had gained a reputation that caused even his enemies to hold him in awe. So effective was his leadership that his warriors could strike fear in the hearts of others by shouting, "We are Sitting Bull's boys," as they charged into battle. So of course, pretty much this guy was what's that guy? A fearsome guy, man. Sitting Bull, and of course, you can't really put it past him considering that he's a Gadite. So again, he's of course gonna have that warrior trait, that warlike mindset, and that strength, that mindset of strength as well, to go into battle. It says, however, he was not just an impressive warrior. Sitting Bull was a spiritual leader. Again, I mentioned this probably a few videos back on this Native American history. The Gadites Reubenites, they really believed in that shamanism, which again is just idolatry, if I recall correctly, of the creation, really. Worshipping the creation and not, or worshipping the so-called gods of that created those things. Kind of like, the way you got Greek gods and Roman gods, that's their version of it. They had their version of idols to worship. So anyway, spiritually, however, he was not just an impressive warrior. Sitting Bull was a spiritual leader who could inspire others to follow him. His visions helped to press his followers into battle and to ease the concern of those left behind to worry. When the US government tried to force Sitting Bull and his people to follow the Fort Laramie Treaty that had been signed by Red Cloud of the Oglala Lakota, he refused. So again, just for some context and understanding there, Red Cloud, where I mentioned Red Cloud of the Oglala Lakota. Again, that's part of the Sioux alliances of Gadites there. Red Cloud, again, is another name of a Gadite too. Him having his own history, but again, I'm not focusing on him right now. But you see, notice the names now. Notice the names. You got Sitting Bull, you got Red Cloud now. So again, it pertains to how their behavior matches their name, or how their personality or character traits matches with their name, or accomplishments to reflect their name. Another one, I think I mentioned it, I might put in the title as well, is Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse had a similar origin story to Sitting Bull as well, which again, formerly known as Jumping Badger. He killed a buffalo when he was 14, as we just read, in the book. So on page 94 on the upper paragraph, in case you read it on your own. Alright, so Red Cloud, that's another Native American Indian of whom, of course, he signed a treaty of Fort Laramie. It says the Fort Laramie Treaty, which that Fort Laramie Treaty, if you do the research on it, was really a treaty that was used to set boundaries in the land. So of course, that land where Lakota was residing, which I believe, from the earlier this chapter, was in hold on, let me see, the Sioux region. Hold on. It says because he was born in Miles City, Montana. So that region there, they tried to let me just search up. Let me search up. But the point is really Fort Laramie was a treaty in order to set boundaries in the territory that God was residing in. So just to not to get into too much into the details. But yeah, Fort Laramie Treaty. Let's get some information from the AI overview. I'm not even getting the map as well. Hold on. Right. It makes sense. All right. But it wasn't just the region of Montana as well. Just bear with me. Hold on. So in the AI overview, when you type what Fort Laramie Treaty was, it says here the term Fort Laramie Treaty typically refers to one of two treaties between the United States and Plains Indigenous Tribes, aka the Gadites, aka the Native American Indians, and their land region. The first signed in 1851, the second in 1868. The 1851 treaty aimed to establish territorial boundaries and prevent conflict during the westward expansion, but ultimately failed as settlers ignored the agreements. An 1868 treaty was a direct result of Red Cloud's War, we just mentioned him, Red Cloud's War, and promised the Sioux exclusive rights to the sacred Black Hills in exchange for peace and relocation to a reservation. So, Jet wanted to chill in it after all that fighting. But anyway, these were the land regions that the U.S. Army was used, to try and negotiate those control of the regions. So that was the purpose of Fort Laramie. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to press here. Where you see Montana on the top left, which was the region where Sitting Bull was born. In the top left there, as you can see, Montana. Let's see if we can make that clearer. But yeah, Montana. And then you got the other regions as well, which the U.S. Army and the Gadites there, of which he ruled. What's his name? Sitting Bull was the leader of, as well as the other alliances as well. They were fighting to protect that region, man. So when the scriptures say in Genesis, let me get it again. Genesis 49 verse 19. About God being a true. Hold on, let me just read it. So this is Genesis 49 verse 19. God, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. So of course that troop is talking about that army, that U.S. Army. Well, in this situation, the U.S. Army coming to invade God, and obviously if you get behind in the history again or go further back, that's really the European countries, which is really the Edomites there, coming to the land of God to invade it. But the Gadites and the Reubenites also resisting against them. But in this scenario, this also supports that scripture right there. Because the Gadites said they didn't want to sign that treaty, that Fort Laramie Treaty. So they didn't want to give up the lands, in other words. So let's continue reading. It says, in 1874, General George Armstrong Custer invaded one of the Sioux sacred places, the Black Hills. Gold had been found near the area, and Custer and the prospector ignored the treaty that said they would not enter the Sioux land, as stated by the Fort Laramie Treaty. So, of course, the Edomites there that were proposing this so-called treaty, they didn't even follow it. Esau, has come to steal, kill, and destroy. Let me get that one quickly as well. Yeah, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he came to steal resources from God. As we just read here, it says, Gold had been found near the area, and Costa and his prospectors ignored the treaty that said they would not enter the Sioux land, as stated by the Fort Laramie Treaty. So they ignored it. Still kill and then destroy. Hold on. So John 10 and 10, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And that's through Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And of course, the key part here says the thief cometh not but for to steal. Again, there was gold there. You know, this guy called General George Armstrong Custer. You know, he's the one who led the invasion of the Sioux lands. As I just showed you the map previously. You know, that's what East was doing, man. Trying to extract all the gold, you know, within these regions here. You know, so Esau's got his eye on that gold. So yes, let's continue on. And he didn't even abide by the Fort Laramie Treaty that he was proposing. So Edomites are a very crafty people. So Sitting Bull was able to rally warriors from both the Lakota and the Cheyenne to fight back against the attackers. Following the defeat of Costa in a skirmish, the U.S. demanded that all hunting bands report to the agencies as established reservations. They were trying to protect the prospectors illegally entering Sioux land by keeping track of the warriors. This was the final straw of Sitting Bull and his followers. Alright, so now let's see about this guy. Yeah, man, Jake was on another level of worshiping idols. The reason why I'm saying that is because of what I'm reading right now, so I might as well. Before I then touch on Crazy Horse as well, let's read this. So this section says the legend, his actions, and the aid of Crazy Horse. So the help of Crazy Horse. In June 1876, Sitting Bull had helped to assemble between 12,000 and 15,000 warriors. They set up at the Little Bighorn River. As a spiritual leader, he also made sure that they completed ceremonies. One of the most important ceremonies was the Sundance ceremony, and Sitting Bull participated in the dance for 36 hours. So, you know, they had the sun dance, they had the ghost dance, they had all these dances, of which, again, was in their folly, in their ignorance, and also, of course, pertaining to idols as well. And Sitting Bull participated in the dance for 36 hours. During that time, he experienced a vision of the result, and he relayed that he had seen that they would be victorious. The vision appeared to be coming true when, on the 17th of June, they joined in battle against General George Cook. He and his men retreated from the battlefield in what would later be called the Battle of Rosebud. So notice how it said, you know, the men of General George Cook, you know, when there was a battle between him and Gad. It says he and his men retreated from the battle. So again, that's also pertaining to the scriptures as well. Once more, Genesis 49 and verse 19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Now, of course, it was like a back and forth situation, just like the Seminole Indians as well. You know, but Gad, there was a lot of them. As it said there, 12,000 to 15,000 troops. Yeah, it says in June 1876, Sitting Bull had helped to assemble between 12,000 to 15,000 warriors. So Gad had their own little army as well. But remember when I said he will overcome at the last, that shows you right there, because they were able to fight against this Edomite guy called General George Crook, and another one, which I read previously, General George Armstrong Custer. You know, so yeah. Now let me get this precept here, because you know it's also part of the curses. It's also part of the curses. Hold on. I might need to do a part 2 depending on how time goes, but we'll see what happens. So Deuteronomy 28 and verse 33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labours shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. You know, the fruit of the land, part of it was gold as well. And Esau wanted that gold. Esau really wanted that gold. So, let me show you something. Well, let me read this again, where it says, so in 1874, General George Armstrong Custer invaded one of the Sioux sacred places, the Black Hills. Gold had been found near the area. So that shows you right there. You know, that was, I guess, part of the profit of the land, that fruit of the land. Of course, it can refer to actual fruit, you know, actual resources, you know, in terms of food, but it can be resources in terms of, I guess, their innate value in today's age, like gold, silver, and the metals. So that's verse 33, Deuteronomy 28 and 33. Let me read this one right now. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 62 to 63. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of heaven, for multitude, because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord Yahweh thy power. And it shall come to pass that the Lord Yahweh rejoiced over you to do you good, to multiply you, so the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua will rejoice over you, to destroy you, and to bring you to naught. And ye shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. So even in the lands that Jake is there, they don't have full control. Jake don't have full control. Esau's got a hand in, you know, in the manipulation, like a puppet master. That's the way the land is. You know, in Nigeria, where you got Judah and, you know, Levi, Benjamin, predominantly southern tribe over there. You know, in the Haitian country, in Haitian, you know, and also you know, the Latin tribe countries, of course, and so on. Esau's the one who's really controlling the so-called puppets over there, the puppet leaders. Alright, let's continue on. Hold on. Let's see. So Crazy Horse was another Lakota Sioux chief. His history somewhat parallels Sitting Bull's. He killed a buffalo at 12 years old. So Crazy Horse beat Sitting Bull in killing a buffalo, man. So again, Gadites were hardcore. So don't underestimate that when it comes to fighting. Now it says, and it's not just Gad, you know, it's Reuben as well. You gotta remember Reuben. And Manasseh as well, you know, those are the three predominant tribes, but Gad and Reuben are the ones that I'm getting on right now. So Crazy Horse was another Lakota Sioux chief. His history somewhat parallels Sitting Bull's. He killed a buffalo at 12 years old. And Sitting Bull, he killed a buffalo at 14 years old, as I mentioned earlier on in the video. After witnessing the brutal killing of a Sioux, he was trying to mediate an argument by a soldier. He joined the fight against the U.S. military. He became a chief at 24 years of age and refused to resettle after the Fort Laramie Treaty. So, you know, even certain Gadites knew that, yeah, that was some bullshit. You know, the treaty wasn't, Esau wasn't going to uphold the treaty. So that's just one of them, Fort Laramie Treaty. You know, so Crazy Horse and his followers ignored the requirement to report to the U.S. government, following the illegal activities of prospectors entering the land. The movement and tactics of his men were instrumental in helping defeat Crook the week before. Alright, let's actually get to another point here. You know what, Yaratazar, I need to do a part 2, man. Because sometimes you got responsibilities to do, and then, you know, don't want to slip up with them. So yeah, Yaratazar, you know, I've given you some information, you know, on Native American and Indian history. And I'll continue on with that precept as well, that I read in Deuteronomy 28, verse 62 to 63, because really, as the Native American Indians were fighting these battles as well, they were getting diminished in terms of their warriors. Their warriors were diminishing as they were fighting the US armies. So then that was weakening Gad, and of course, eventually he got overthrown. Not to spoil the story, but I'm going to get into that part. Yaratazar on the part 2. So yeah, Shalom, Yabashim Shabrakatha, and Yaratazar, that it did help to build up your knowledge, that you found it edifying. So yeah, double honors to the great ones and apostles. Kah halalim la Yahweh Bashim Yahshua Bashim Rakha Kudash. Brakthaya Brakthaya Shah. Shalom.